Alright. Okay. So hello folks, and welcome to round 22 of the iRacing League's Assist Tier 1 Championship, and we find ourselves in the night race that is the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Jeddah, the fastest street circuit on the Formula 1 calendar. And we come into this off the back of Portimao, and with that particular race, I'm sorry I wasn't able to stream it because I was feeling a little bit under the weather, had high fever and coughing, and unfortunately I think me coughing on the stream doesn't make a good one, so I think let's go back to me yawning instead. I think that's go more of a motif with me. So coming onto the back of Portimao, what happened is that we saw John B wrap up the World Championship in the Alpine, and truly a worthy winner. He has been extremely commanding all season. Pace has been extraordinary and a thoroughly well-deserved winner, and for that I say tip my hat to you, John B. Congratulations, 81 champion of the world. But today is a new day because we find ourselves right smack bang in the streets of Saudi Arabia, which in real life has been a scene of a very interesting, shall we say, first race where there was a lot of carnage, very little runoff, and let's be honest, it's actually quite dangerous. So thankfully this time we are just playing a video game, and there is going to be no death or any serious accidents coming into here in real life. So let's see what this qualifying session can unfold for us. We'll see coming out of the pits we have Stappyyy in the Aston Martin, and we also have Jake Sharrock in the AlphaTauri. It's a very fast-flowing street circuit with a lot of high-speed corners. And Flo, how are you doing? Great to have you catching up with the stream on the channel. Thank you so much for following, and thank you so much to all followers as well, because we are only 25 away from that magic 300 number for the iRacing League Twitch channel. So if you know some friends who maybe enjoy a little bit of league racing, then do introduce them to this channel. We would love to have them on board to give them plenty of entertainment throughout the week, with the Tuesday races hosting the no assist tier, Thursdays assist tier 1, and Sundays the assist tier 2, where obviously I'm going to plug because I race in it from time to time. So do subscribe to our Twitch channel to make sure that you stay right in with the fun of the iRacing League series. As coming on board to Stappyyy, we are going to see the first benchmark time of this qualifying session in the Aston Martin. He's got DRS open on the back of the Aston Martin. As he comes down to the first corner, it's a very tight left-hander and almost awkwardly angled the curb, but he takes that very well, keeps it in third gear just so you can keep enough so you don't overshoot the wheels coming off the back of that corner, down to turn 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. They all come at you so quickly, but it looks like he's keeping all the tyres within the track limits. It's so easy to invalidate a time here because the curbs, they're almost virtually non-existent as soon as you go over them. As it comes down to they just complete the first sector, the banked left-hander, which is so much fun to drive, I have to say. And we've got yellow in sector 1, so that's the other Aston Martin of Ripley, I suspect. As it comes round to the end of sector 2, which in real life is actually the host of the second DRS zone. It's a 58.4 for sector 2, so we'll see how that compares once we get round to the end of the lap, see how all the other drivers do there. The second DRS zone rather of this track in-game rather. This comes down to the final corner. The very tight hairpin takes about third gear as you point and squirt all the way through to the finish line. And what can Stappyyy do to kick us off? It's a 128.2, which all things considered is not a bad time. Padge, hello to you as well. Great to see you following the streams as well. Who else is on the board to complete a time? And we're not going to get representative one for Ripley at the moment, because as you can see on your screen, he has damage to his front wing. You just see the right side end plate is damaged, so he will not be going any further. Who else is apt to set a time? And we have APS Hawks in the Haas. It's been a while since we've seen him, so we'll go on board with him, stick with him for a bit. Platty comes across the line to do a 28.9, so it looks like Stappyyy has kicked off the time with fairly reasonable opening lap. 58.8 for Hawks in the second sector, so 4/10 down on what Stappyyy was able to manage. But as you open the DRS, let's see if you can make up any more time in the final sector. You just got virtually a straight and then a very, very tight hairpin just before the final straight. It's a very point and squirt corner, admittedly, but it was a site of some pretty close racing, I think, in real life Formula 1, exacerbated by the battle between Hamilton and Verstappen, as Hawks goes second with a 28.6, so virtually matching Stappyyy for the second sector, rather. If I just get confused with myself. And here we have IIRL Hyper, who on Sunday was crowned the champion of the Assist Tier 2, so congratulations to him. Let's see if his success in 82 has spurred him further in the tier above. He keeps it on the track. It goes down to the left-hander. What good is it? He drops it down to third just to get the car slowed down enough. It probably does ruin your ultimate speed, but it probably gives you that feeling of grip as he goes wide and sadly invalidates his time. Unfortunately, that's another lap Hyper's going to have to do. Sami Styler's also invalidated his time in the Williams. And today we haven't got either Millsy or Fairley in the McLaren. Instead, we have Commence, and we also have the Sun God 26. So who else is still out? So Essel O'Connor in the Sol Alpine is out on to start his first lap, and he, I believe, won the no assist tier race, and what it was a particularly commanding performance. So we can expect plenty of excitement from Essel O'Connor, coming off the back of one win, hopefully going to the next one. Demon Johnsy, how are you doing? Thank you so much for watching the stream. How are you? I hope you're enjoying the action here. As commenced, there's a 31 flat for the first sector time. Goes into the left banked corner. Keeps it in fourth gear. And looks like a very solid exit. Oh, and it looks like APS Hawks has retired from the session. It looks like he has crashed out on top of sector 1, so it looks like he must have lost the back end coming out of that tight left-hander, and unfortunately that is curtains for the Haas driver. Stephen Johnsy rooting for Sun God and Tenten, both two very quick and fun drivers, and Sun God as well, also doing a brilliant job when it comes to the no assist tier streams. Certainly leaving me a big boost to feel when I took my role in commentating here. As Commence comes down to the finish line, what time's it going to be? It's a 28.8, so that's good for third place right now. It's Essel O'Connor, that's a 29.1. It's not quite where it needed to be. Hyper now with a 58.9. This looks much tidier now from the Red Bull, and it's certainly valid, so that's obviously going to help. He'll take a little bit of pressure off, but he's got to nail it coming out of this last corner. It can be quite tricky if you're a bit too greedy with the throttle. Brings it down to second almost, so really trying to find some traction coming out the back of that corner. And what does the 82 champion do for a time? It's a 29.1, so 7 thousandths quicker than Sun God. Not done any of the track on this game yet. I think that's what thankfully I have time trial for, and once you get a good rhythm around here, I gotta be honest, it feels really good to drive. It's just, the problem is there's no real runoff. So if you get it wrong, you really get it wrong, because the average speed of this place is higher than your average street circuit. So IRossJ going out onto the mediums. Another one of the no assist tier runners. It's 31.1 for a first sector. Onto the medium tyres, interestingly. See now how most of this track is, it's very high speed corners, but it's very, very straight. So, I don't know, maybe tyre wear is a bit kinder here. Or maybe a two-stop strategy is more beneficial because DRS is more powerful. So 59.4, interestingly, for a second sector, so it's quite a bit off the pace. Proving that medium tyres are probably not necessarily the right ones at the moment, unless he's just had a tidy lap. Is maybe just as simple as that. Songod has come back out to start another out lap. And it's very quickly, just like Portimao, you run out of deployment for us across a hot lap very, very quickly. You run out just before you go to the start-finish straight. 29.6 for IRossJ. As a Ferrari of deflated Wii goes into P3 with a 28.6, which is nearly 200ths of a second just off of what Platty did. Who else is out on a time lap? 10.10 has invalidated his time. Songod is on with him, so let's stay on board with the no assist streamer. But he bumps the wall coming out, and he bumps the wall again. Has that gotten any damage to his front wing? It doesn't quite look like it. No, his front wing looks relatively clean, so he may have just gotten away with that. He's on the medium tyres as well, interestingly. So let's see how this lap stacks up relative to IRossJ, and he's definitely slower in the second sector. I think it was a 59.4 that he was able to do, and he's invalidated his time as well, so that's not what he needed at all. So it's Padge's time now, so let's go on board with the Red Bull while I figure out which camera to stay on at. Car looks absolutely hooked to the road there, but he has invalidated his time. Once again, proving how tricky it is and how easy it is to invalidate your lap around here, especially during this corner that 10.10 is at now. But thankfully, he's well within track boundaries. It's a 30.8, so it's a bit faster than some of the times we've seen. How does that react? How does that compare to Stappyyy? Keeps it in fifth, just carries the speed through there. Normally, I think I see some of the drivers have got down to fourth gear around that point, so keeping it in fifth, well, it does mean it probably runs a risk of a little bit of understeer, but it does help keep the speed when you need it, as yellows are around the track to slow the cars down. The Alfa Romeo comes round to the hairpin. Let's see how he handles the braking zone here. Gets all the braking and shifting pretty much done before he goes into the corner, so very straightforward that from here, as he just about runs out of ERS now. It's a 28.5, so it's good for second place right now, and only 2.5 tenths behind the Aston Martin of Stappyyy. Who is on a time run. Let's go on with Mr. Wiggles now. As he comes across the line, he'll be another set time. It's fifth fastest, so the gap in between third, fourth and fifth is very, very close. You can see on the timing screens. It's separated by not even 0.05 of a second, half a tenth in it there. So incredibly close timing there, as Ripley has still got a little bit of fuel, it seems, in the car. backs up and he goes for it. Takes first and takes down the first turn, the left-hander, second turn, the right-hander, upshifts actually into fourth in the middle of all of that, so it will give him stability, but I think that may cost him overall time, and looked a little bit wide as he went into that left-hander. He wasn't as greedy as other people were, because you can get away with hogging some of the curb on this in that particular corner, but Ripley has gotten through that sector, but it's a 31.3, so that's far from the fastest that we've ever seen around this Jeddah track. As Hyper retires from the session, I think he may have been in the pits there. I can't see any Red Bull stopping out on the timing screen, so it looks like he's retired in the pits. So 59.1 for Ripley on the second sector. 10-10 retires from the session. And Stappyyy retires, which I'm fairly confident he'll get through. But that was a very wide entry into the hairpin there from Ripley. Will that have cost him even more time? What does he do as he comes round to the final corner? It's a 29.3, which is only good for 13th. Unfortunately, Hawks, while they may have done a 28.6, which all in hindsight was a very, very good time, it's about as far as he's going to get in terms of the order, as Padge now goes into P6 with a 28.8. Wiggles now retires from the session, so it's still Sun God and Run Amok still to run a lap. Ripley, Rjack, Greg, Sammy Style and IRossJ may be up against it as well. It's not very far, the gap between IRossJ and Elimination, which is now, as you come down further, as Sun God does a 29.0, which is good enough now for 9th place. But I highly suspect that IRossJ and Greg are pretty much sealed where they are, because they haven't come out into the pits. Yeah, see, Greg has retired from the session, so he knows he's not going to go any further. But can Rjack improve while on medium compound tyres, as the Aston of Ripley gets out of the way? Has he got any more fuel? It doesn't look like he's bingo fuel. Run Amok is also in the pits, so he's not going to go any further. More like just saving his tyres for the race. But Rjack, he won't know what the others are doing, but which is why he's out there trying to set a time. Yeah, so Run Amok I don't think will be setting a time. So that was curtains for him. He's still down in 18th. Ripley's now down in 16th, and Jake Sharrock is out as well. So that means that's essentially it for qualifying. So doesn't look so nobody else will be going out, coming out of the pits rather. But we're seeing Rjack here on a timed lap. Let's see if he can improve. He's 4/10. He's about a tenth and a bit down. As APS Hawks is also out himself. So that essentially wraps up qualifying. So I suppose we'll stay on board with the Ferrari and see if he can improve on his time. Well, he's closed up. He's found time in the second sector. It's quite a wide entry into that left-hander as it comes round the final sector with DRS open, comes down into the hairpin. Let's see how he handles the braking. It all looked fairly tidy, but he had to drop down to second on that one. He goes 10th with that time. He does improve. That's about as good as it's going to go. Well, somehow, completely under the radar, Commence has improved his time and now goes second fastest with a 28.4. So it looks like apart from him and Sammy Style, that's pretty much it. So I imagine they'll be either coming into the pits or crossing the line. Either way, that's the end of the session. So Greg and IRossJ live to go through to the next session. They fight for another day. So there we have it, guys. That is the end of the first qualifying session for for this round of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I'll just run through those who have crashed out. So have it, guys. So Stappyyy sets the early pace with Commence not too far behind. But the crucial thing are the people going out. So we have Hawks, who crashed out of the qualifying session. And now we also have Ripley out in the Aston Martin. Jake Sharrock out in the AlphaTauri. And Run Amok having not set a time at all in the Williams. I have to say, this is definitely a good day for a lot of British runners here. So hopefully we'll see 50% chance of a British pole position right now. There you go. So Canon Libano, thank you so much for the follow, and that takes us up even closer to the Magic 300. And on to the next round we go. Just going to make sure we have the tyre one on this time, because this is the one which is crucial. The faster ones I imagine will be looking to get through on the mediums, so it depends on obviously who's coming out of the pits. So SLR Connor is the first one to go out, but he is on the soft compound tyre. Who else is coming up? We have the AlphaTauri of Wiggles, who's on the mediums. Stappyyy as well is also on the mediums. Sammy Style is on the softs. You see more and more of the drivers now starting to pile out of the pits. It's definitely a tricky track, and it's very interesting in real life. And I don't know what you guys feel about this in the stream, but given the chaotic race that we had in Saudi Arabia in real life, and the fact that they're having it, the second race this time out for F1 22, what do you guys think of that? Do you really think they're going to be able to make improvements to the track in time? Because it's not exactly a long window in between races for Saudi Arabia, but at the same time, it's very it's just I don't think whether realistically can improve it in that amount of time. They'll probably need some more time, almost like Australia, to almost redesign the track to achieve what they want to do. So coming out onto the track, I think it's Mr. Wiggles who's the first one out, so we're going to stay on board with him. He's going to be the first time runner who is out on the medium tyre, so this will be the benchmark for those who are looking to start on the what can be called the ideal racing strategy. Didn't look like the tidiest first couple of turns there for Mr. Wiggles, but he goes very wide, often to the right-hander, but he makes it work. And now onto the long sequence of corners where it's one after another, but he goes out of track and invalidates his time. Let's see what the other drivers are doing behind. So we have SLR Connor, who has done a 30.5 for a first sector time, which is among the fastest that we've seen. So where was he hiding that throughout all of Q1? Well, we know how good he was in the no assist here, where he took the pole, led and won. So I did say watch out for him. And if you guys haven't seen that stream, go and check it out. It's definitely a fun one to watch, and obviously you get to spend some time with your boy Sun God as well. SLR Connor has invalidated his time as soon as I say that. So back to the drawing board for him, and the next one to around the time is the Aston Martin of, I believe, yeah, it was Stappyyy, so he is unfortunately validated his time. The McLaren is next behind, so that one I believe is not Sun God, it's Commence. But he's kept his time and the car in bounds. So it looks like this is going to be the first benchmark time. It doesn't look as much faster as what we did in Q1. Remember, the benchmark was a 28.2, and you'll probably be looking at a 58 to 58.4 for a first sector. As Commence comes across the line, it's a 29.7 for a medium runner. So given that what we've seen, I believe it may have been IRossJ do in the previous qualifying session, it doesn't look like that was particularly the fastest lap that we've seen. And as you say, that Sun God goes to the fastest with a 28.9. Strong effort there from him. The Ferrari of Deflated Wee, I believe. Yes, this Deflated Wee is actually coming into the pits, so it looks like he's had a bad run. I don't know whether he's got some damage on his car, but the Ferrari not in a comfortable position there. As 10-10 starts his lap. APS Greg is also starting his lap as well. IRossJ is on an outlap in the Ferrari. Piper, I think, he's on his lap. He's coming around the final corner, I believe, in his Redbull. As Platy goes fastest in the 28.4. So it looks like, from the times are saying, the soft tyres are the ones to be on. But there's more to come from the medium runners. 31.3 for 10-10. So just for reference, Sun God set a time. No, it was SLR Connor set a first sector time of 30.5. It's only a second down on the soft compound runner. It's 59.4 for 10-10 in the second sector on mediums. Not bad. Sammy Styles just crossed the line in 5th, trying to get 2 laps done on the soft tyre, so he'll probably want to run a fresh set if he wants to get through and start the race on the cleanest tyre possible. But what can 10-10 do as he comes across the line? It's only a 29.4. So, again, like what IRossJ was able to do, so that's not quite the best one. 10-10 seems to have his work cut out for him on the medium tyres, as IRossJ now takes provisional pole with a 28 flat on the soft compound tyre. So it looks like the pace differential between the soft and the mediums is quite alarming. And with the track rubbering in as well, the times are getting faster. It makes you wonder what Stappyyy could do. As IRossJ is the first one to break into the 27s. It's 27.9. Who's the next one to come round? Well, it would have been SLR Connor, but he's coming round into the pits, having invalidated his lap time. Sammy Style, if you see by time speeds, this isn't going to be representative time. He comes into the pits. Commence as well comes into the pits, as 10-10 is down on his best, so I imagine he's going to have to go to the soft tyre because he's still got 4 other runners yet to set a time, and if they want to make sure they get through, I mean that they'll have to go on softs. APS Greg is down on his time, so this won't be a representative effort. I imagine he'll be boxing at the end of this lap. Padge has also invalidated his time. And the only other person out is the Ferrari of IRossJ, who, as you'll see, is going slowly himself. He's not even using energy, so he'll be boxing at the end of this lap. And the only other one still out on track, well, actually, Stappy's now come out for an outlap. So with plenty of time, he'll get a couple of runs. That'll sort him out well and truly. As IRossJ now comes into the pits, that'll be the end of this session. Imagine that time should be good enough to get through into the into Q3. But I think realistically, if you're going to get through at all, you need to be on the soft tyre. And what that means in terms of race pace and race strategy, we'll find out when the race comes along. But interesting calls for those who are really banking on being time. Mr. Wiggles, as you see on the time, he's a second down. A second in qualifying is virtually a mile. Now this could be a crucial lap to see. SLR Connor's on out up as well. I think I just saw in his time is a little bit, I can't remember whether it's only conclusive. It's only a little bit down from what SLR Connor was able to do. But Stappyyy, crucially, he's gonna be looking at least good for second place. What is his second sector time? It's a 58 flat. So it's about 4/10 up on what he did in the first qualifying session. Thank you for the follow, Barry. That's another one to take us up to 300. Thank you. Running the number 2 on his car, but he'll want to see number 1 come near the end of this lap. What can Stappyyy do as he comes round the final corner now? DRS open, about to run out of energy. What can Stappyyy do? And it's a 27.6. That is truly a brilliant time. That should comfortably see him through for those in any doubt. And I've noticed John B's not on this time around, but do you reckon he could have beaten that? Let me know in the chat. As we go on board with the Mercedes now, Greg, who is down in 11th place with a time of 1 minute 30.2. And we have... his back's up against it. He should have enough time to... he's got enough time really for 3 runs, but those tyres I don't think are going to hold up, because if he gets through, he'll need to save them for the race. And just like that, I'm seeing a lot of drivers now coming out onto the softs just to cover themselves, including Mr. Wiggles, which, just as I suspected, is not going to get... I don't suspect he's going to get through on those medium tyres, because it is so close. As it's a 31.0 now for APS Greg, who is... look at that improvement there, guys. 6/10 up on his time. Let's see how well he plays it through the second sector. Drops it down to 4th. And down to 7th. How much has he improved by the second interval? Let's go round to see his time there. He does a 58.9, so he's a second up. He'll break into the 128s for sure if he keeps this lap, the rest of this lap clean. But unfortunately, it wasn't the most comfortable of exits for the Mercedes coming out of that sequence of corners. But all he's got is the hairpin and a final straight to go. Let's see how he does on the brakes. Drops down to 3rd. It feels like it was very mid-in, mid-out as he rolls down to the start-finish straight. Is he going to get into the 1 minute 28s? He just about does it and puts himself up into 5th place. Crucially ahead of Wiggles on the medium tyre. But SLR Connor is also on the blind. It's 57.9, which is up from what Stappyyy did. And by about 0.03 of a second, SLR Connor has set a new benchmark for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. What a lap that was. commences on his outlap. Songod is improving, does a 28.5, so 6/10 off of Songod, off of SLR Connor, what he did. That's a strong lap. However, it did take SLR Connor 2 laps to set that time, so that 1 lap of distance in the session, one lap of wear, could make the difference when it comes into the race. As Songod goes into 5th with a 28.3. Solid improvement there for him. Wiggles does his 58.0, almost matching the leaders in terms of pace. So Wiggles could be good for about 3rd place, and that should comfortably see him through. Drops down to 9th in the standings. He does a 27.7, so that's 3rd. Well improved there. Sammy Style goes 6th in the Williams, as Padge in the pits. So I don't think he'll be going any further. He is out. Hyper is on a time lap, and Deflated Wee, crucially, has invalidated his time, so he comes round the final sector, and he's not going to get enough time to get a lap in, so that has sealed his fate. And just to see that, I thought Hyper was going to invalidate his time there. He has kept it on the board, and he's done 30.9, so fairly respectable time. Not the fastest that we've seen, but it's far from the slowest. All he's got to do is not hit the wall like he did there any harder, rather. Let's try and see if he's got any damage. No, he should be okay, but he's hits the wall yet again, but this time he has got damage. As I say that, in the twinkling of an eye, IRL Hyper, 82 champion. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out in the long haul, but 10-10, crucially, is on the chopping board. He's 5/10s up, so 30.8, so he's got to just make sure it just stays in the boundaries and he's through. It's just APS Greg's time of 28.9 that he's got to beat. Hyper goes 13th with a 30.1, so he'll at least start ahead of the Ferrari. The Alpha is 8/10 up, and this should comfortably beat the Mercedes of Greg. So there we have it. Unless he absolutely bottles it at the back of the final corner, and there's nothing really to say, he'll come round, and this will surely get him through and surely knock the Mercedes of Greg out. He comes across the line, and yes, it does. Only good for P9 though, but it's plenty enough to get him through into Q2. And with that, guys, the second qualifying round of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is over. A little surprise there for Hyper. Unfortunately, just pushed a little bit too hard and damaged his front wing, and I apologise in advance for commentator's curse. But both Red Bulls out, as well as APS Greg and Deflated Wee, who sadly invalidated his time and just didn't have the time to get round the track in time. And that ends Q2. So there we have it, folks, with Connor and Stappyyy really setting the pace, and Wiggles not too far behind either. This could heat up to potentially a three-way battle for the pole position. But going out into those who didn't quite make it through, so we have APS Greg 11th in the Mercedes, Padge 12th in the Red Bull, IRL Hyper 13th in the Red Bull, and 14th is Deflated Wee, unfortunately, in the Ferrari, who coincidentally released their 2022 car today, which, compared to last year, doesn't look terrible. What do you guys think about the Ferrari car now that it's been released? Do let me know in the chat, and any kind of discussion points we want to talk about during the 5-minute break. I would love to see what you guys want to discuss during the interval session. So there we have it, folks. We are coming up to Q3. I don't think there's any point in putting on the tyres because everyone knows what tyre you run in the third qualifying session, unless you're a god and you can qualify through on a regular pace anyway. Everyone's going to be on softs, and straight away we see SLR Connor out in the Alpine. You have to remember, in qualifying 2, himself, Stappyyy and Wiggles were separated by a mere 1/10 of a second covering them. So it's going to be essentially a battle for supremacy between these top 3, I feel. I could be surprised though, we could get a potentially demon lap from 2 of the Alfa Romeos, or even the 2 McLarens, or RJack as well could come into the mix. Who knows what on earth is going to happen in this qualifying round in Saudi Arabia. So I have to be honest, Padge, top 3 prediction, judging by what I've seen in Q2, it's going to be a variation of Stappyyy, Connor and Mr. Wiggles, but I'm not going to say in what order because knowing my luck, commentator's curse is a bad thing, so please apologise to Hyper for me. As SLR Connor will be the first time we see in the third qualifying session, as it starts to get a little bit darker around this track. He takes a very wide entry, really takes the straightest exit possible. Did I say demon lap? I think I might have said demon lap somewhere, Demon Johnsy. So, if I refer to anything as a demon lap, I'll be sure to plug you in the chat section. As Connor now is coming up to do his time, this is the first benchmark as we've seen. Let's stay on board with him through the session. I find it quite hard to follow in the broadcast view. Very tidy through here, drops down to 6th and now straightens it up at the entry of the next sector. It's a 30.4, so very, very competitive. We've got a McLaren and a Ferrari ahead of him. Hopefully they should stay out of the way. Yeah, and the McLaren dutifully stays out the way. Gets it up to 6th, counters any wheel spin, but really floors the throttle. And this is a very tunnel vision-esque track, where you just home in on the straight you want to go and just go. 58.0, so he matches what he did in the second qualifying session. Looks very tidy, that exit, and the line is taken through. It's very, very smooth as the Alpine goes through there. It's only been a tradition with the Alpines to be just extremely quick in a qualifying lap and race as well. SLR Connor, for those just joining as well, he won the no assist tier race on Tuesday from what I understood to be a very, very commanding drive. SLR Connor sets the initial pace mark with a time of 27.7, so a little bit down on what he did in the first session, but Stappyyy gets the initial point, 27.6. He's up. Advantage so far to Stappyyy, but we're still waiting to see what the AlphaTauri of Wiggles can do. It's only a 58.2, so he's down, and it's a 28.5, so he must have had an absolute mare of a final sector. Sammy Style goes ahead of him with a 28.2 in the Williams. Commence does a 58.1. But how well has he hooked up the final sector? How close can he get to the leaders? A 27.8, so that's a very respectable time. It's so close with everybody here. As 10.10 comes into the pits, the next one around the track is going to be IRossJ. He's 3/10 down on Connor. Imagine 4/10 down on what Stappyyy has done. What can the Alfa Romeo do? What can he bring to the table? It's going good for 4th place at the moment, so it's a 28.2. RJack comes across the line. Goes into 6th fastest. Oh yeah, Platty, always a regular in Q3 in this tier. How well has he hooked up this lap? As it comes down to the straight, he's already run out of energy. It's a 28.1, and I highly suspect that some people are running out of energy quicker than others, and that's kind of creating this almost like almost like this kind of wedge in between certain times where the time differential is just crazy. 10-10, the only one yet not to set a competitor time. Commence yet to set his time. Sun God goes into 5th fastest, so very strong qualifying effort from Sun God. Once we get rid of the yellow flags, we'll see how much time we've got left in the session. Yeah, we've got 6 minutes left, so lead us back into the pits, and Platy spinning it there, and oh, that looked like quite a nasty knock. That will surely damage his rear wing, and surely his front wing's going to be damaged as well, because, well, he's not going to have a front wing at all from what it could be seen there. Looks like a bit of debris as well flying off the track. But the question is, how badly damaged is that rear wing of Platy? We all know rear wing damage is bad when it's getting to a point where you just lose all of your downforce. Connor goes out for an outlap. And just as I fear, Sun God has also lost his front wing, so he'll have to come into the pits to change. And he's got a puncture as well, so that's our set of tyres completely ruined due to his puncture. He must have got that at some point in Sector 2. And I'll be honest, even though it's punishing, there's debris from another crash. Thanks for pointing that out, Demon. And there we go, the tyres, they're completely gone from what I can see, as he cautiously waits for SLR Connor to come round the bend. Oh, and that McLaren has got no grip with only 3 tyres on it. He's just spinning round and round and round. This is almost as entertaining to watch than SLR Connor's laps. So speaking of which, let's go back to SLR Connor's laps. So where can he find the time to improve, and can he keep it within bounds? Looks like it was fairly tidy throughout. And yes, that was well within boundary, so it looks very, very tidy from the Alpine. What does he do in relation to his time? He is 2/10 up. This could be potentially, could we get into the, maybe the low 1:27 tier? Sun God, no, sorry, SLR Connor really finding time. Goes up into 6th, so that's very, very strong effort there. You're on full throttle for so long this lap. What does he do for a second sector? 57.7. He's 3/10 up on his time now. So we are going to see a low 1:27 surely from SLR Connor. And Stappyyy hasn't yet come out to set a time, but he will find very, very quickly that his pole is going to be taken by this Alpine as he comes down to the final corner, drops it down to 2nd, to 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and now upwards to 7th. Powers it down to the line. Does he improve on his final sector at all? Yes, he does. He goes a 27.379. That is the new benchmark to beat. Who is the next one to come round the pits to set a time? And I think it's Swiss the Wiggles, but we're on board with 10-10, who crucially hasn't set a time at all and certainly needs to. Wiggles does a 27.7, so more or less in line with what he did in Q2, but unfortunately 4/10 off of what SLR Connor is able to do. Let's see what 10-10 can do in the second sector. 58.3, so that's definitely quite a bit down on what SLR Connor was able to do, the pole sitter. And he's invalidated his time. He's invalidated his time, so he's got to back off now. He's not going to have the energy, really, to do another lap. I don't think he's going to have the fuel either, so that, unfortunately, may have just sealed 10-10 in number 10 on the grid. Yes, he's coming into the pits, and that is it. Who else is on a timed run? IRossJ is on a timed run. Stay on board with him. He's 3/10 up on his best, so this should carry him into the 1 minute 27s. But is it good enough for maybe second or third place? We see Stappyyy coming out onto his outlap. 10:10 has unfortunately bottled it. Drops down to P10, very much like what the Ferrari did in Q2. 27.8, which is good for 4th place right now for IRossJ, and I think that's all he's going to be able to do with the time that he's got. Commence is a 10th up on his best. Stappyyy comes round to start his lap, and he has started it now. More's tempted to go on board and follow him, and yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let's see what the Aston Martin can produce to tackle the Alpine in front. It has got to be a very strong and crucial lap from Stappyyy if he wants to get on board and take pole position, because that was an absolutely, and I'm going to say it, a demon lap from the Alpine. What does he do for a first sector time? 30.2, so he's matching Connor. He is certainly matching him. He's a 10th up on his best. He's got to find just about 3/10 should do it. Looks a little bit tardy, that exit, so it wasn't quite as smooth as Connor's as the time is running out of the session. What does he do for a second sector time? And he's only a 10th up. It looks like it's going to go to the Alpine unless he can find an absolute chunk load of time in this final sector. And it's quite hard to, as it's virtually a straight with just a hairpin in it. But let's see if the Aston Martin can pull something back in the time that he's got. He comes across the hairpin right now, looks on the straight, plants it down. What is he going to be able to do with the run that he's got? He comes across the line, and he has improved. What a lap, what a final sector from XR Stappyyy 7, who takes pole position by 0.35 seconds. What an ending to this fantastic qualifying session. Commence goes into 7th place. Platty goes into 4th. Wiggles gets into 3rd place with Commence 7th. Sun God in 6th. So very, very good job from him. Sammy Style, unfortunately, 8th. And Jack comes across in 9th. And oh my goodness, what a final sector that was from Stappyyy, and what a qualifying session that was just to watch. God, I love Thursday nights. What do you guys think about that in the chat? A few of you surprised about Stappyy's lap. I'm certainly surprised as well, because that was he found so much time. And that wraps up the end of the session. 18 seconds of corner cutting penalties incoming. This is definitely the track for it. As DXT Jonathan, thank you so much for the follow. So there we have it, guys. This is the top 10 for this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So we have Stappyyy taking a brilliant final sector to take pole position. SLR Connor goes into 2nd in the Alpine. Mr. Wiggles 3rd in the AlphaTauri. 4th, Platty in the Haas. IRossJ is 5th in the Alfa Romeo. 6th is SunGod in the McLaren. The 2nd McLaren of Commence takes 7th. Sammy Style goes into 8th. Arjack goes into P9. And 1010, unfortunately, goes into P10. So with that, guys, with Q3 follow, we are going to go take a 5-minute break. So let's take some time to have a bit of a discussion, like what you thought, whether it was what you thought about the qualifying lap, the qualifying session that came. I see deflated wee. Hopefully you won't be disqualified before the first pit stop. Fingers crossed. Just as long as you keep it clean, I'm sure you'll have a great race. But genuinely, what guys want to get to your feeling of, because there's been a lot happening in real life Formula 1, hasn't there? Because we've had car launches, we've had Ferraris won today. We've got Mercedes tomorrow. We've also had the announcement that that Michael Massey will no longer be race director in the FIA. He's going to be offered a new role, and the whole changes that they're implementing in an attempt to make the racing a bit fairer. What do you guys think of the job shifts that are happening in FIA? Did Massey deserve to lose his position as race director? Newman Johnson making his feelings very, very clear about Massey, and I think obviously the Abu Dhabi incident is an incident in itself, but when you look at him across the entire year, so those decisions have been very inconsistent. Like I thought the Belgian Grand Prix was a complete farce. I thought that the way he handled the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix was a complete joke. Having two directors down instead of one is probably better, so all the stress is not Massey all the time. You know what, Deflategui, I reckon that's quite a good point, because you've got two people ultimately to share the burden. What you're gonna clamp down immediately on potential bias, because I felt like from that radio instruction Jonathan Wheatley was saying to Massey, and that it kind of felt like an instruction, which yeah, it just kind of shows how badly Massey crumbled under what he was supposed to do, which is direct the race, which unfortunately is a shame, because I wouldn't have wanted his job, because you had probably the biggest title fight that we've had in years that year. But ultimately, you're judged by the decisions you make under pressure, very much like the Formula 1 drivers are. So it was, unfortunately, it kind of had to happen, I feel. And hopefully the changes will bring a lot more consistent and fair decision making. Out of the car releases then, guys, what's been your favourite one so far? I mean, what's been your favourite of the new Formula 1 cars to look at? Because we obviously don't know how fast they're going to go, but in terms of your favourite cars that have been released so far, what's your favourite one to look at? Yeah, the McLaren kind of got mixed opinions, I reckon, Demon. But then again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think the Williams are like, I'm not gonna lie, I love the shades of blue that they brought onto that car. It definitely beats the Codemasters default layout that they had last year, and they just put on their own colours. I think what I love most about Williams this year, and obviously I'm prepared for the comments, it's just the fact that Alex Albon is back, because he deserved another chance in a Formula 1 car, and now he's got it. As the timer's going, it feels like it's going a little bit early than what we're normally used to. But now, off from the real-life Formula 1 talk and into the simulation world of Formula 1 talk, because it is time for the parade lap of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for AT1. And as you will see on the screen, a majority of the field opting to run for the soft tyre. That's for the exception of APS Greg, Hawks, Ripley and Runamuck, who are all starting on the medium tyre. As you see on the timing screens, it seems that the very one stop will be the way to go, but preferably get onto the medium tyre. But that, I think maybe that's just showing that the wear really isn't too bad around here. So the medium will be the faster one to go on, unless there's an early safety car. You come in at like lap 5 or whatever, and then you have to throw on a precautionary set of hard compound tyres just to ensure you get through to the end. Not that you'll get much grip, because I'm personally not a fan of the hard compound tyres in this game. But hey, I mean, life's not all about me. Jake Sharrock has been disqualified from the formation lap, so he's coming round to the back. It's coming round from the field. It looks like the difference in pace between soft and medium is quite alarming, to be honest. So it's going to be... Oh, they got... Oh, the times have actually been revised. Powered by AWS, no doubt. That coming in a lap earlier to put on the mediums may actually be the better strategy. If you're going onto the hard tyre, that is. So, as you'll see, they're all coming around now to fill up the grid to start taking their slots on the grid to start the race. With the championship already sealed, there's still plenty more up for grabs, as unfortunately this is really not helping me, the camera, to show a decent view of people starting this Grand Prix. So we're just going to have to see everybody but looking from their behind this time. Unfortunately, sorry for that, viewers, as you come down to see 3 lights, 4 lights and 5 red lights are on. And we are underway for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Let's see what's happening at the front. SLR Connor gets away well, but Stappyyy has already stamped his authority on the lead. Looks like everybody seems to be getting round very, very carefully, but doesn't look like anyone's made any damage as of yet. So, very, very tiny getaway so far from everybody. Looks like those on the medium tyre are still finding their feet somewhat, as just as I say that, Ripley has dropped down to the back. He has spun out from near the back, and unfortunately he's about 5 or so seconds off the back of the field. He's going back up to the leaders. Stappyyy and Connor separated by coming to 9/10 of a second, but let's see how easy it is truly to follow around here. He's already broken the DRS barrier, the Alpine. As looking behind Platty, the closest gaps I would say are behind him. It's about 3/10 now between IRossJ and the Haas. So close. Let's go on board to see what it's like behind, as the McLaren as well behind IRossJ commence is right on his tail as well. Looks like the gaps are across the field and not even a second between each car, but we love to see all these cars following each other so closely as we come round the hairpin round to complete the first lap of this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Jeddah. Stappyyy leads, SLR Connor second, Wiggles third, Platty fourth, IRossJ fifth, Commence sixth, and oh, what has happened to Platty? Platty, unfortunately, has been overtaken by the Alfa Romeo. So it looks like there must have been a very tardy exit from the Haas, but it looks like the Alfa Romeo has made it work, and all the gaps all within, like I said, a second of each other. So come round to the next lap, there should be a helping handing of DRS as Padge comes into the pits. I suspect to change his tyres, and he may have had some damage as well. So the head of the tier, the man who was considered the main manager of this racing league, unfortunately stuck at the back with very little ground to make up. As behind you can see Wiggles right on the back of the Alpine of SLR Connor. and Platy dropping back himself with the McLaren 2/10 behind him. That, I think, for all of this track's flaws, there's a very good thing about which you can sit there and follow, and as you'll see with Connor there, I think it's quite easy as well to cross over boards and validate your time, or in this particular race in the race, get a track penalty. As Commence is the next one to attack the Haas of Platy. What is the Haas going to be able to do to defend? Looks like he may have lost it coming out the back of the first lap, so which explains how he lost his position to IRossJ, but Commence unfortunately isn't able to capitalise as much. He's probably close enough to attempt a very late overtake, but unfortunately he's not close enough yet. DRS has now been enabled, so now expect to see some overtaking potentially at the front or whenever the opportunity arises for those behind. It looks like Platy is not quite comfortable with this this particular track, and he's out of it looks like he's out of rhythm, out of sequence rather, going into the end of the first sector. He's not going to have DRS, which is going to make him an open target somewhat for the car front. And looking up behind, Wiggles versus Connor, they'll go round and round the side with each other, and the AlphaTauri has gone ahead of him. Lovely stuff, as SLR Connor, the race winner from no assist here, has dropped down into third position, as the AlphaTauri, the next car in front of him, is the next one to potentially challenge Stappyyy, who looks to be way ahead at the moment with the DRS, and yes, he's at 1.1 seconds, so unfortunately the AlphaTauri is not going to see the benefit of that, but IRossJ is staying with the Alpine as well, so it's a double attack that he's got to fend off. Alpine goes to the inside, but doesn't quite let him have the corner because the Alpine and the Alfa Romeo are both going to have DRS. And that's going to leave Wiggles a sitting duck. Two of them just drive clean past him. The Alpine retakes second position, or does he? Was there a little bit of contact there between the Alfa and the Alpine? But SLR Connor takes second for now, but unfortunately Mr. Wiggles drops down to fourth. All of this is allowing this man to get away. It's 1.6 seconds the gap. Fortunately, both Red Bulls not having a good session themselves, both into the pits to change, so 17th and 18th, and Yellow's in sector 3. So what has happened there? Hyper has come in to retire, as the gap stabilizes between the top two at 1.5 seconds. It's almost like a blink if you miss it sort of circuit. Let's see how quickly Connor can catch up to the back of Stappyyy. He's not going to have DRS, but he is slowly making inroads. He's 1.2 seconds now, and he'll have enough to fend off IRossJ, I believe, coming into the hairpin. But he's going to need all of the ERS in the world to defend against the start-finish rate, which they are coming up to now. Yes, with 3/10, I can't help but feel the Alpha is on the move, and the Alpine covers to the inside. Is IRossJ going to be able to make it stick? He goes round to the outside, and oh, that's so close. But all of this once more would just allow Stappyyy to get away. Jake Sharrock has got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits. But all of this is not quite letting the leader get away as quickly as he might, as Commence now is joining the battle in the McLaren. So it doesn't quite look like that the this particular zone that they're in right now is a key overtaking opportunity. Runamuck gets his first time penalty of the session. Those on the medium tyres are really seeming to be struggling against those on the soft, so it's a tale of two halves in terms of the race strategy. I see almost SLR Connor was almost within the DRS, but he looks like he's had a very bad exit from that corner. He's not deploying anything, and that's how close it is between himself and the Alfa Romeo. They are so close. I am very surprised they didn't take each other out due to the Constantina. But the Alfa Romeo's got to be careful here. IRossJ's got to be careful. He's going out to try and overtake him with DRS, but that's going to leave him exposed when it comes round to the next trap. I'm wondering, brother, how the SLR Connor might actually have some damage because his lights were going on the car. But no, it doesn't look like he's got any damage. He goes round to the outside to immediately retake the position, but Wiggles is right there with him as well. What is the AlphaTauri going to do? He doesn't quite have the grip to stick it around the inside, and the positions are changing all the time between the second, third and fourth cars. As things stabilise between the top field, actually it looks like hardly anything stable because Wiggles is now back under pressure from what the Alfa Romeo is able to do. SLR Connor's had a bad exit. Wiggles goes to the overtake along the long left-hand bank corner, and all this fighting each other really is helping the Aston Martin Stappyyy to get away. And we got a safety car that has been deployed because of Ripley SPL's crash. That, unfortunately, is the end for one of the Aston Martins, and that, I think, changes the strategy. Look there, just see. As soon as we went back on your screen, that was caught. That's unfortunately curtains for Ripley. He unfortunately had an incident on the first lap and lost the car coming out of the first sector. So that's 2 retirements so far, and that is going to change the potential race strategy. Will we see these people come in for the hard tyres? I highly suspect that they will, but no, Stappyyy comes in almost trying to fake, do what they don't do sort of strategy, almost trying to bait other cars going into the pits so he could probably stay out. They would have the problem then of having to tackle through the field, which just gives him more time to pull away. As everyone now comes into the pits. Stappyyy goes onto mediums, IRossJ onto mediums, SLR Connor onto hards. As APS Greg takes the lead in the Mercedes temporarily, but crucially there is a car between Wiggles and Stappyyy because APS Greg hasn't come in yet to service his stop. Runner Muck has also taken 4th position, putting a car between Mr. Wiggles and SLR Connor. Hawks is, after starting P15, is up into 6th position, having not come in himself. So that has just flipped the race completely on its head for those who started the race on the medium compound tyre, or those currently on the medium tyres, I should say. Arjack comes onto the softs. Jake Sharrock goes onto the mediums. He will have served his 5-second penalty. And it looks like Connor has suffered something of a gaming glitch. The team weren't ready. The team have given him the wrong tyre. They've done a Ferrari and given him the wrong tyre, or done a Mercedes in the Sakhir Grand Prix. Choose whichever one you want to use, or whichever one's accurate. But as we see the leaders come back up to the safety car queue. So I suspect we'll get another lap or so behind the safety car just as the back of the field closes up. It's about 12 seconds the gap between Arjack and Deflated Wee, so I'm sure they can definitely make that within the space of a lap. But crucially for Stappyyy, a couple laps under the safety car will certainly help, but it's still quite a long job to make sure that he gets through. And Connor, because of that glitch, comes onto the mediums. That throws him completely out of position behind IRL Padge, who comes into the pits himself. He also comes onto the mediums. So even with Padge coming in, I still think we're going to have... I still think that's it in terms of time behind the safety car. We've got to get this race back just back underway. And Padge is 21 seconds behind SLR Connor, so at least his tyres will be warm, unlike everybody else who's going to have to struggle, who will be struggling with cold tyres. Certainly a nice broadcast view to get that particular shot. As you'll see on your screens, I'm sure before they come around to the second sector, they'll make the announcement the safety car is coming in. If they decide to come in. Just like that, Padge is already on the back of the field, so it might lose a little bit of tyre temp. So I think with that, it's just confirmation that the safety car will surely be coming in at the end of this particular lap. And it's showing, interestingly, that they haven't done any laps, but laps under the safety car do count as laps worn on the tyre, even if it is at reduced pace. As Hawks has collided with Runner Mark, and that's potentially worth a penalty if any of the two got damage. And it's a very late call, but the safety car is finally coming in at the end of the lap. I gotta say, that's a very, very late call. And as you'll see in front, everybody now sticking up behind each other. It's going to be very late until the Aston Martin drops it, and he's dropped it, and he has left everybody for dead as Runner Mark comes into the pits. Wiggles goes to challenge Greg, and it looks like no, he's not going to get the move done. But he's still got a chance round to the outside. He comes round to the left-hander, and no, he's got him. He's got him. So that's good stuff. So SLR Connor's got a world to do in terms of catching up, and Mr. Wiggles, unfortunately, has earned himself his first time penalty, unlike Stappyyy, who is still going very strong on the medium compound tyre. Well, crucially, the gap between them is under a second. IRossJ goes to overtake Greg, but can't quite get the move done. But it doesn't look like Hawks has got damage on his car. Is Massey running this game too? I don't know. He more than likely is. It was probably the model for the AI or something. But just like that, Greg has had a very bad exit just out of the chicane, and just like that, Ross steams his way past. But he's lost 1.5 seconds to Mr. Wiggles. So he had Ross, who was still in the fight potentially for a win, and now it's Commence's turn, surely. He cannot waste any time getting past that Mercedes. He goes round to the inside. But he hasn't got the move done, and the Mercedes crucially got a tow, and look at that with 10-10. 10-10 has lost his front wing after crashing the car. He goes to spin the car back in a straight way, as 10-10 has now been disqualified from the session for going the wrong way. What an absolute nightmare. The host has now been migrated after 10-10 has left the session after being disqualified. Unreal stuff here, guys. Sector 3, still yellow flags going around. Absolutely crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy. So, Massey may very well be running this game, to answer your question, Demon Johnsy. But let's go back to the battle up front, because it is between Stappyyy and Wiggles, and the gap between them, only 0.6 of a second. IRossJ, having fought APS Greg to get to where he is unfortunately down on his rivals by 2 seconds. Commence, unfortunately, hasn't been able to follow through either. The two Hasses hold up behind in 6th and 7th, as RJack has made a move behind on Sammy Style on soft compound tyres. He'll surely have to come into the pits again, but those are the hard runners. Let's stay on board with Sammy Style to see what kind of run he can get. No, it doesn't look too bad, all things considered. Jake Sharrock has retired from the session. We'll see if we can see what happened on board when we ran with one luck, as the VSC now has been deployed. So those on the it's interesting enough. Is anyone going to come into box? And yes, Greg does come into box. He won't lose as much time. And just you'll see on your screen, the AlphaTauri got some damage. And my dad is Martin is clearly a fan of Michael Massey. I mean, you'll always get those who will still say that he denied Lewis Hamilton the title, which is in part true, because if those rules wouldn't have been, if the rules would have been followed, it's clear that Hamilton would have been champion. But I don't want to take anything away from Max Verstappen, because he won't deserve to have the title taken away from him in such circumstances either. But anywho, I'm getting off track here with the whole news about Michael Massey and the fact that he's going into a different role. Run Amok goes into the pits, and Padge has now gotten himself a drive-through penalty for speeding under the VSC. But crucially for Wiggles, not only has he got to pass Stappyyy, but he's got to do 3 seconds, which is not easy on a track like this. Not easy at all. And Stappyyy knows he's under pressure. He knows that the AlphaTauri is going to have DRS, so as long as he stays within 3 seconds, I think the ball is still very much in his court. I don't think he's going to go around for the overtake here, but no, the Aston has given him the corner. He's done a Jarno Opmeer. He's done an Opmeer, given him the corner just so he can retake the position, which he does now with relative ease. And look at the difference there in speed. Hawks passes Commence. So I wonder what happened to the McLaren. Unfortunately, it looks like he may have been caught out by the VSC period. But after not seeing Hawks for a while, this is a very strong race so far for him so far in the Haas. Given that he started... Oh, and there's contact between Arjak, Platty and Commence. And Commence's front wing has gone completely. Let's see what's happened there. Yes, his Commence's front wing's completely gone. It's pandemonium now between SLR Connor and Sungod. I wonder if any of them have any damage. It doesn't quite look like the case. Connor's going to lose out. Yes, he is. Sungod takes his position back. And that just shows just how easy it is to lose it under these particular corners. And what has happened to Stappyyy? Stappyyy has had a moment as well. He has dropped down to 6th position now. What has happened to the Aston Martin? I completely missed that, guys. I am so sorry for that. But it looks like Stappyyy, who was leading this race, has dropped down into 6th position, it seems. And he's lost some turning speed. So does he have damage on the front wing? Does he have damage on his car? He may very well do. As Arjak versus Sungod behind him. He's dropping back. He must have damage. Must have damage potentially on the underfloor of the car, whether it's on the front wing or not. He goes in. Yes, and that has completely flipped the race on its head. Stappyyy coming into the pits to see if it's anything to do with the front wing. And yes, they are changing the front wing. Arjak has also got to come in to change his front wing, which promotes Sungod up into 6th position. IRossJ has also earned his first 3-second time penalty of the race. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers in. Commence chooses to retire from the session. Obviously, his damage is probably a bit more than just the front wing. But that is 5 people retired from this session. As we see in front, Mr. Wiggles versus IRossJ for the lead. And I've got to say, Haas P3 and P4, I mean, you wouldn't quite see that in real life Formula 1, but it's a good result so far for those, for both Platty and Hawks. And Hawks, although mind you, Hawks is yet to stop, but with a VSC period and a few laps behind the safety car, that should help him at the end of the race when he goes to put on those soft compound tyres. He's surely got to put on softs if he's got the life to do so. As SLR Connor passes Run Amok. Oh, that's a really nice broadcast shot. I'm going to stay with that. I do like these sky shots when we do get them. Then that comes to the end of the final sector. Yellow's in sector 2 and 3. And what has happened to Deflated Wee? And Deflated Wee has got himself a puncture. It's a puncture on the Ferrari. So the car's damaged. He'll have to limp back to the pits for... And that is crucial for him because he's on a new set of tyres. That is the worst possible time to get a puncture as soon as you've changed. As Run Amok comes into the pit, so I just with two laps on his tyres, I suspect he'll have damage. And there you go, they are changing the front wing and putting soft tyres on, so that should get him through to the end. And let's see what's happening ahead as Padge loses out to Arjak. Padge looks like he's served his drive-through penalty. You need to do that within 3 laps in racing conditions. Padge gets his first 3-second penalty of the race. As IRossJ is within striking distance now of Mr. Wiggles, but he closes the DRS early, so he doesn't attempt to move in there. I think it probably feels as a bit more decisive to potentially go for an overtake somewhere else on the circuit. As Hawks comes into the pits in the Haas, I imagine it'll be soft tyres going on, and yes they are, and he's got oh yeah, he's got that penalty to serve, the 5 seconds for the collision with Run Amok, so that'll drop him a bit further back. We also got front wing damage as well, so that's even more time lost. He'll surely drop behind SLR Connor on the tracker, so that's only good for maybe 11th place, but no, he's actually getting out ahead of Connor. So that's the Haas drops down into 10th. So the next battle on the grid is between Arjak and Stappyyy. Stappyyy dropped down to 7th after potentially being in the frame to win this Grand Prix. A safety car will surely benefit him now. As up in front, the gap 0.6 of a second between IRossJ and Mr. Wiggles. As the other closest battle on track is between these two, Stappyyy and Arjak, who... Stappyyy, we all know how good his pace is, but unfortunately it's... oh, Run Amok has retired from the session. It looks like he's had a moment. And is that going to bring out yet another safety car, is it, guys? He's gone off. Just before, I think it was about turn 7 or 8. God, there are so many turns in here. Doesn't look like they're throwing out a safety car. We'll see where he's retired here. Oh, he's gone off there, so I don't think that's bad enough to warrant a safety car. But that is our 6th retiree of this round. So on lap 16, let's do a bit of a head count. So we got Mr. Wiggles leading the race. We have IRossJ in 2nd position. Platty is in 3rd. Sammy Styles up into 4th position in the Williams. Sun God is 5th in the McLaren. Now for some reason it's showing me the wrong... there we go. Sun God is 5th in the McLaren, doing a solid job of hanging on to his position. APS Greg is in 6th position. We're on soft compound tyres in the Mercedes. Stappyyy is in 7th place, having made a mistake and coming to change tyres. Behind him is Arjak, who is only a second behind. Padge is in 9th in the Red Bull, as APS Hawks, interesting enough, is not actually getting away from SLR Connor. Well, nevertheless, for now, he rounds off the top 10. And behind we have Deflated Wee, who, unfortunately, due to his puncture, is now over a minute down from SLR Connor. I wonder whether he's actually a lap down relative to the leader. We'll just find that time there. Yes, he is a lap down. So just go to the time of intervals between each car. It's getting closer between Stappyyy and Arjak. And look here, the Ferrari has got a moment. He's got a chance to overtake. As he goes round to the outside, he does the fastest lap. Fated Wee comes into the pits and retires. And Arjak, the other Ferrari, takes 7th place from Stappyyy, who, as of, will be kicking himself after making that mistake. Let's get back to the leaders. 7 tenths between those two at the moment. Let's see what lines they take through this chicane. Looks fairly equal on both sides. And interesting, the Alfa Romeo is not actually deploying any overtake. And I don't think Wiggles is either, because Wiggles knows this is where he needs it. The secondary DRS zone right off the back of this. But IRossJ is not having DRS either. I think he's just saving his energy because he's going to need it once he a chance to pull off an overtake. These two are on the same strategy, so those tyres are just as worn as each other in terms of how many laps they've run, but how well they've looked after them could decide who wins this Grand Prix. Stappyyy looks like he's getting past Jack again, but the Ferrari is coming back on the start-finish straight, and it doesn't look like the Aston will have much defence there. But looking up to the leaders, looks like Wiggles has had a bad first sector. He's only 5 tenths now ahead, and as you just see on your screen, yes, the Ferrari goes for the overtake, but doesn't quite make the move stickers, showing that Stappyyy is still in the lead. Well, in the lead of those two, anyway. Hawks, however, isn't really making many inroads into our Jack because SLR Connor's not too far behind him. Padge is in P11. Unfortunately deflated, bad luck for this particular race. These things happen, just make sure you obviously come back stronger, and hopefully the final round in Abu Dhabi would be a nice send-off for this particular season for you. As looky here, it's very, very close now between Wiggles and IRossJ. Wiggles almost sort of lets him go because he knows he's going to have DRS at the next possible opportunity, but he doesn't. Actually, that's not the best exit, was it, from IRossJ? And there we go. The AlphaTauri just steams right back past. It's almost like it's too powerful here, the DRS. Hi guys, sorry, I was coughing. I almost forgot to turn my mic on, so that's really bad of me. I apologise for that. So, looking forward, as I was saying to virtually myself now, Mr. Wiggles and IRossJ, they separated by only 2 or so tenths. The crucial thing about who's going to win this Grand Prix is who gets DRS in the last straight. So yeah, sorry about that confusion there, guys. SLR Connor now is coming up to overtake RJack. But IRossJ is in the lead. And But Wiggles sensibly backs off to give himself the DRS. And coming onto the start-finish straight there, that could make the difference of who wins this race. I mean, we saw it in real life, not between Hamilton and Verstappen, but when Valtteri Bottas overtook Esteban Ocon for the podium slot, which, let's be honest, Bottas kind of needed to do. The Ferrari of RJack is struggling against Connor, who's got the DRS on him, and makes mincemeat of him down the straight. And Hawks, I think, will be a little bit disappointed to not be fighting as high as he should be with those soft tyres, as Sun God's penalty, unfortunately, is going to drop him down to potentially 7th place, depending on how much time SLR Connor can make, which is a shame, really, because he's driven a very consistent race so far. Stappyyy can't find a way past, and he's almost pushing him along. He's got plenty of traction out of that final corner. Going into the left banked corner now. He's got DRS. Is he going to make the move work on the McLaren? No, he's not. Lap 23 out of this 25 lap race. Now, can Wiggles and IRossJ play it incredibly sensibly? Can they keep it clean, but can they play it smart? And just there, this is the penultimate lap. As now coming up with Stappyyy. I mean, surely he will have displaced Sun God even before the DRS owner. Yes, he does. Now, crucially, can Stappyyy, if he can get within 6 seconds of Sammy Style, then that can actually get him into 4th place. The 4th places could certainly be on the cards for him. As coming up to the battle with the leaders. This is the penultimate lap. It has got to be a very strong and calculated drive from either of these guys if they want to win this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, because we all know how powerful the DRS around here. You need good exits, unlike what Wiggles had just now. The gap is a 10th, and they are so close. It's 2 tenths now. The Alfa Romeo is going to go round to the outside. But is he going to give him the DRS? And yes, he is giving the AlphaTauri the DRS. And Stappyyy is within 6 seconds of Sammy Style, so he is going to get... He's going to get 4th position as long as he stays where he is. And this is the last lap. Wiggles versus IRossJ. This is the last lap, and where they are in that final sector could make all the difference in terms of who wins this Grand Prix. The DRS is so powerful around this track, so you've got to be in the right place at the right time. Ideally, you need to have DRS going into the final straight, but you've got to be right up there, chuff. 5 tenths is the gap. What is it going to be coming round to the end of the 3rd sector? The 3rd sector, the last round, is really where either one of these two will win or lose this Grand Prix. We're going to stay on board with Wiggles. The man in second place. We're going to stay on board with IRossJ, rather. The man in second place who has got to make this count. And he's dropping back to nearly 6 tenths back. Is that going to give Wiggles just enough breathing space? Let's see how well they take this chicane. How much time does the Alpha make? He's dropped back to almost 7 tenths. Is the AlphaTauri going to pull it off here? It looks like he is. He will be deploying all the energy left in the world. This is going to be an absolutely nail-biter of a finish. He's about 6 tenths back. I think the AlphaTauri is going to do it. And Wiggles has just got to put his foot down. And Wiggles in the AlphaTauri wins from IRossJ. After a absolutely razor-sharp battle between those two, was an absolute thrill to watch. The AlphaTauri comes through as Platty rounds off the podium in serene style. Sammy Style, speaking of style, comes round to take what he thinks may be 4th place. Unfortunately, it's going to be 5th because Stappyyy comes across the line and takes 4th himself. Sun God crosses the line, but he'll lose 6th to APS Greg. Behind SLR Connor will finish in 8th. Behind him we'll also have APS Hawks in the Haas. He comes round to finish in 9th, where the Ferrari of Arjack will come across the line to round off the last point scoring position in 10th. And unfortunately, not scoring any points this time around is the Redbull of IIRL Padge. As Arjack at least sets the fastest lap, so that'll be an extra point to go to his points tally. Padge comes round to round off the finishers. What a lovely race. What a battle here for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So, there we have it, guys. We have a very strong climatic ending to this particular round. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix ends with Mr. Wiggles triumphing after a close-knit battle between himself and IRossJ. And let's round off the point scoring positions here. We have Platty takes the podium in the Haas. We have Stappyyy in P4 in the Aston Martin. Sammy Style is P5 in the Williams. Greg 6th in the Mercedes. Sun God driving a very calm race to P7 in the McLaren. SLR Connor, unfortunately glitched out by the game in terms of his pit strategy, takes P8. APS Hawks, who ran as high as 4th in the Haas, takes 9th. And Arjack rounds off P10 and the fastest lap in the Ferrari. So with that, guys, that I think will bring an end to this particular stream. I hope you guys enjoyed the racing as much as I did. As you can tell, I'm clearly running out of breath, but it was a lot of fun to do and a lot of fun to commentate on. So for those of you in the stream, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure having you guys on board. Once again, thank you to everyone who has followed us during this stream. We sincerely appreciate the support. And let's hope we can get round to that magic 300 very, very soon indeed. So you know me, it's your boy Spark. So thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will catch you during the 82 race for Saudi Arabia on Sunday. I will see you guys there, and as for now, do check in with the IRL stream. See you guys next time out. Bye bye.